Welcome to Animal Posse, the podcast dedicated to the people and rescues making a difference in the lives of animals. Today's guest is Diana from Horse Rescue United. Diana is a dedicated advocate rescuing and rehabilitating horses in need. We'll hear about the mission, the challenges of rescue work, and the lives being changed one horse at a time. Hi, Diana. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Of course, anytime.
My vet, Dr. Charlotte, is the one that recommended you because she got her horse from Horse Rescue United. So I would like to hear all about your rescue. Before we get into that, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Basically, I work in marketing and communications for university. And then I also, on the side, I write fiction novels about horses. And then I've been involved in horse rescue pretty much since I was 15 years old, doing fundraising and marketing horses and things like that. So basically I joined rescue with somebody else back in 2010. So it's been 16 years.
When you first got into horse rescue when you were younger, what did you do?
I started out sponsoring a horse, and then I realized they didn't really have anyone to promote the horses for adoption and sponsorships. I was 15. I was like, I have a computer and I can make flyers. So if you guys want help. So I would basically make flyers and then go to 4-H fairs on the weekend and just hand them out to people. And this is like pre-internet, really. And then once the internet was up and running, like more people were going on that, then I would share stuff via the web and message boards. And then eventually that became things like Facebook and stuff. So I've been on and off involved in horse rescue since then. So that's been 31 years now. It was just always a passion of mine to help animals in need, and especially horses.
Yes, I have spoken to a lot of different rescues. I've had, of course, cat rescues, dog rescues, rat rescues, bunny rescues.
Oh, wow.
You're the first horse rescue. The only other time that I ever did talk about horses was we're in the New Orleans area. So we have Mardi Gras here. And after Mardi Gras, they have the Mardi Gras horse adoptions. So
Okay.
I spoke with the Humane Society of Louisiana about what they do to get these horses into homes. So I would like to hear way more about horse rescue, where the horses are coming from, how you handle homing the horses, how you foster
Yep.
them. I'd like to hear all
Yeah.
about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So how we get the horses is like a variety of different ways. It can be like, for example, Charlotte's horse, Cooper, actually came from an auction. So a lot of times these horses end up at auction. People don't want them anymore. And then that's where the last stop is. And sometimes they can find a home through there, but most of the time it ends up like people that are kill buyers that actually sell them to slaughter in Canada or Mexico. So there's people that bid on the horses for meat and they get sold and then carted off to Canada or Mexico. Sometimes they just get sold to the Amish, and a lot of the Amish horses they're basically treated like equipment. So they end up working in the field, they end up pulling buggies, and a lot of times, not very many years later, they're at a home and then they end up back at the auction because they can't perform those duties anymore. And a lot of our horses, like including Cooper, were ex-Amish horses. And then honestly, we've had horses who were abused that the SPCA gets involved in. We've had neglected horses, a lot of those, they're just skinny and starved. But then we've had, for as many of those as we've had a lot of really nice owner surrender situations. So people who have financial distress or a death in the family or something, those people will contact us. And as often as possible, we try to help those horses before they end up going to auction and going to slaughter pipelines. So that's where all the horses come from. I would say most of our horses are ending up being owner surrenders now. But when we can go to auction, we do. And then as far as what we do, so we don't have our own farm. We board horses at a facility in Wall, New Jersey. So we have 4 paddocks that we board the horses, and they live out 24/7 with shed that we can stall them when we need to for emergencies or other reasons. But basically the horses all live there. And then depending on the situation, the horses are either made adoptable or they're sanctuary horses, depending on if they have medical needs, if they're extremely old. So we actually have 2 horses right now who are in their mid-30s, which is really old for a horse. The average age of a horse lifespan now is pretty much 25 to 30, and some of them don't even make it that long. So we have one horse who's 35, we have another who's 33, and those horses are sanctuary horses. And then we have some horses who, a lot of them are adoptable, but they're only adoptable as a companion horse because they can't be ridden or pull a cart anymore. So those horses just stay and people sponsor them, or they might get adopted for a companion home every once in a while. It's really hard to find people willing to just take a companion horse, but thankfully we have found a number of those horses homes over the years. And then the horses who are rideable or able to drive a cart, those are usually the ones that are more adoptable. And we do a lot of our networking is on Facebook and Instagram. But we'll go on like local Facebook pages. We'll sometimes try to do local events as much as possible. Most of the promotion we do these days are digital. So there's not a whole lot of like flyers and things like that happening anymore. It's all online. People sometimes find us through Pet Finder and on our website too. So there's lots of different ways that the horses can find homes that way.
So the sanctuary horses that you have, are they living in the facility that you have in New Jersey?
Yes. Yeah. So we don't own that facility, but we board there. So we pay a monthly fee basically to have the horses there. And then we're really lucky that we have volunteers that are completely unpaid. So we've got about 25 volunteers that come in twice a day to do all the horse care. So it's like mucking the horse field, making sure they have their hay and grain, medicine, supplements, grooming, all that kind of care, make sure they have water. So they come in twice a day and take care of the horses. So thankfully, we don't have to pay anybody to feed the horses, but obviously we have to pay all the hay, grain, on the farrier for their feed, dental costs, vet bills, on top of their hay, grain, and whatever medication and supplements they get.
And what about like an exercise time for the horses?
So they're actually out 24/7. So the horses all have their own paddock with a run-in shed, so they can just go in and out whenever they want to. And the horses that are obviously not rideable, it's just whatever they want to do. And most of the horses that are companions or sanctuary horses, you don't want to really get them to run around too much because they're already dealing with leg issues and lameness and things like that. So they can just freely run around as they feel like, but they're just in and out all day. And most of the time the horses are outside, and then they just go in their shed if it's too hot or maybe when it's raining, but sometimes they don't even care about the rain. They just stay outside. And then the horses that we do have that are rideable, which right now we don't have any rideable horses, but when we do, those horses are basically, we try to either bring in a trainer, or if we happen to have an in-house trainer, those horses are ridden, and then we take videos of those horses and keep track of their progress, to post those on Facebook and other places to try to find them homes and just keep track of their progress. But yeah, ones that are just companions or sanctuary horses, they just hang out all day. They're like big dogs.
Yeah, they have a good life.
Yeah, I have two pasture pets at my house, and I'm like, man, this is the life right here.
So what is the criteria that you have for adoption?
We actually have a pretty strict adoption process. I've talked to other rescues, and a lot of the rescues don't do what we do, but we're really committed that our horses don't end up in the bad situations they come from again. So we have a really long contract. It has everything from the horses that were sold, leased, given away, that kind of thing without our permission. There's like a $10,000 fee. We require photos from the adopters every 3 months. Thankfully, I have a really good relationship with our adopters, so a lot of them will just post them to Facebook. I don't actually have to ask them. And they'll put them on Facebook or Instagram, tag us, and then we always provide those updates back to the people following us, so people that give money. That way, if they want to see a horse, some people call horses that were adopted 14 years ago, and they ask for updates all the time. So we require the photos and the updates. We also require a vet check form. So the vet check form is given to every adopter once a year, and then they're responsible for having their vet fill out that form. It says that they've gotten their vaccine, they've gotten a physical, there's no issue that we need to be aware of. There's a mechanism in place so that if the vet does see a horse and there's an issue, they can contact us anonymously. So that's one of the ways that we keep in touch. But thankfully, most of our adopters, in the contract, it does require them to update us. So if the horse needs to be put down or dies suddenly, or if there is a very serious medical issue, we require them to get in touch with us. And if somebody isn't able to keep their horse anymore, so if they have a financial situation or somebody passes away and they can't keep the horse, their contract requires the horse basically to come back to us unless we can find a new home. Now, we've had situations where a horse is adopted out, somebody passes away, they can't, their family can't keep the horse. They'll contact us. And thankfully, we've been really lucky that a lot of those horses haven't actually had to come physically back to the rescue, but we were able to find them a home through the rescue and then get them adopted that way. So it's a pretty strict process. We do background checks, we do reference checks of people to make sure, like, we're actually okay with first time horse owners as long as they have some horse care experience. And we don't require anybody to own their own farm, but we just like to make sure that people are committed to the horse, especially even if the horse is rideable at the time. We have a clause in the contract that specifically asks, if this horse isn't rideable anymore, will you keep this horse? And if the answer is no, then that's obviously not a good fit. If the answer is yes, then we know they're a committed home. They're going to keep the horse. And most of the people are true to their word and do that unless there's a very serious financial situation or something.
Yeah, I like that clause about the photos because that's nice. Always knowing how they're doing when you see the photos too.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of rescues, they adopt something, and it's like, how do you even know where they are, if they're okay? Like, there's just so much. And one of the things that our rescue does is we maintain that quote unquote ownership for life, even though I would consider all of our adopters owners. We at least have the safety net of, if something happens to that adopter, whether if they have an issue or if they need to reach out to us, like, we're at least there. So there's never a situation where it's like, oh my God, I lost my job, or there's a family member that passed away. They always, like, the horses always have a spot with us no matter what, as long as they came from the rescue. So there's always people that contact us for places in the rescue, but we can't always accommodate those unless they came from the rescue before.
So, have you ever had to enforce that $10,000 portion on your contract?
Thankfully, we haven't. We have had two horses that were neglected that had to be taken back. But thankfully, other than that, we've been really lucky. We've had several horses that have come back 2 or 3 times. Two, like one of them in particular, both of his previous adopters passed away from cancer. So it was one of the situations where they didn't really have the families weren't horse owners. It was really just those adopters that had the horse experience, and they just didn't feel like they could keep the horse for various reasons. So those horses got returned to us. And thankfully, they've all been adopted out since. So like I said, there's been a few that have had 2 or 3 homes depending on the situation. But thankfully, I have a lot of horses that we adopted out in 2010, 2011, and they're still in those homes today, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Now, you said that some of the horses are companion only, and in other ones, you may be able to ride, or people may be able to do a
Sure,
cart with them. So, what
sure.
explain to me what a cart is? What does that mean? Is that a workhorse, or is that different?
Oh, yeah. That would be like if somebody wanted to go on a carriage ride. So there's a lot of, around the country, there's a lot of pleasure driving that happens. So there's people that do, like, even people just take their horses out with a carriage on a trail. There's some people that actually do competitive driving in shows. One of the horses I know of that we've adopted out, she actually does do shows every year, and they send us really nice photos of her competing in shows with the carriage. It's really pretty. I would say most of our horses are just riding horses, but since we do a lot with standardbreds, those horses were driven on the track mostly, so they can do both. So thankfully, we've had some horses that their adopters have the choice, so they can go riding, or if they want to go out with a carriage. We evaluate all the horses before they go out for that. Sometimes we'll have a horse that, even though it was a standardbred, it's not a great fit for a driving horse, but it's a great fit for a riding horse. So that's how we evaluate that. But so yeah, we've had carriage horses. Nobody's doing any work horses. We don't allow any breeding of the horses. That's something that's really strict. So once the horses go out, we have a clause that if it's a mare, it can't be bred. We have a clause that they can't be just given away. The horses usually don't go to lesson programs or trail barns. I think when we first started, we had a horse or two that went out to trail programs where people like come to a business and ride trails, but it was a really nice facility. It wasn't like a facility where the horses are overworked. But in general, we seek private homes and just trying to find people directly that are going to kind of keep a horse as a pet and just want to do some riding.
You did mention that you get some Amish horses. Do you get more
Yes.
Amish horses than you do other ones?
I wouldn't say more, but we've had quite a few. We've had many that were standardbred racehorses that, for one reason or another, they were sold and then they ended up in an Amish home. One of my personal horses that I adopted from the rescue, her name is Class 50. She's one of those. She's 16. She basically was in training to be standardbred racehorse. She wasn't fast enough. She's a small horse. She was sold and actually ended up being a broodmare for a few years. And then unfortunately, her owner passed away. I think, and before he actually got sick first and had to sell her. And then she just fell through the cracks, ended up with the Amish. She didn't get adopted through a rescue at first. She was like a private horse that our founder knew from because she works in the standardbred industry. And what happened was because she was her trainer, standardbreds have three brands on their neck usually. Anook is the founder of our rescue. She got a phone call when they found Classic Cookie at a sales lot. And it's basically somebody saying, hey, we found this horse. Do you want to purchase her? Thankfully, we were able to come together and give her a spot in the rescue, even though we were pretty full at the time. And then she has old injury. So she has an injury that they think is probably an old buggy injury. So she's got a huge back ankle. And then her other back leg is sunken in too. So she could technically maybe ride at a light walk, but that's all she could do. She wouldn't hold up to a lot of work, and that's probably why the Amish ended up dumping her in a sales program. So there's a lot of horses like that. It's such hard work. They're wearing these really heavy shoes. It just takes a toll on their bodies. And with my horse's case, she's been with me for 2 years now. All she does is stand in the field all day, eat hay, grass, hang out with her buddy, and that's all I ask of her. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes we'll get a horse from the Amish via auction that can be ridden on some level. But a lot of times the horses that come from the Amish especially are just really beat up. And it takes a lot of rehab to get them in better shape again.
When you purchase a horse from an auction, how much do you typically have to spend per horse?
So it's gone up considerably in the last few years. When we first did it back in 2011, we got a big Belgian draft horse who had cancer in his eye. So he obviously didn't have a good prognosis, but we got him for $35.
Wow.
We got another standardbred mare who was in really bad condition. We got her for $75. So I think Cooper and the other horse that we got at the time were close to the 150, 200. And usually the cheaper horses, that's the ones that the kill buyers go after. But I know the last few years, the prices have definitely gone up. That's why we don't really deal so much directly with auction horses anymore, is one reason, because we went a few years ago and there were horses that were in really bad condition and they wanted $500. So it just depends on the time of year and things like that. Sometimes you can get lucky and they're not that expensive, but the prices for meat and just for horses going through auction has definitely risen considerably. But any of the horses, that's one of the things we always tell people that are looking to place their horses that we can't help, is just to try to make the price as high as possible or require a contract and follow up, because there's just so much, like people see ads for free horses. Those are the horses that they're going to target and try to sell to kill buyers.
Would you mean this is like an individual that contacts you for a rehoming, but you don't have space right now, so you just offer them that
Exactly.
advice?
Exactly. So we'll just tell them, hey, we'll even tell people, like, you can go to our website and take our contract and just change the wording so that it's your name. And that way it's something a little bit more tangible that might scare a kill buyer away, because a lot of these kill buyers will literally show up to people's houses when they see these ads, and they'll bring their kids and they'll bring their family and say, oh yeah, of course, I really want to help your 25-year-old horse and give her a great home. And meanwhile, they're just literally going to flip the horse for profit. So that's something that people have to be really careful of. And a lot of people don't understand like how bad the industry is as far as just how dangerous it is to let these horses go through the cracks. There are horses, we've talked to people that we can't take that are older, that have a lot of health issues, and that our recommendation is to literally have the horse euthanized, because the risk of that horse ending up in a worse situation and suffering is just so high.
Yeah, that's very sad. I know as far as with puppies and kittens and cats and dogs, whenever
Yeah.
people are like giving them away, especially on social media, I always tell them do a vet reference, because they do show up and they will actually pay a family to go show up and make everything look legit. So you're like, oh, they have kids. It's a nice, sweet
Yeah.
family. I
Yeah.
cannot believe they do that for the horses too. That just blows my mind.
Yes. Yeah. And if anything, it's worse because it's just, they have the dogs that they use for fighting and stuff. But with the horse industry,
Yeah.
the way it is, it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm just going to take this horse and I didn't have to pay anything for it. And now I can go to auction and get $500-$600 for it. And if it ends up going to a kill buyer, what do they care? That's
Right.
just a way to make money.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, because even with what people will try to do to acquire cats and dogs. And like you said, they're doing
Yeah.
this and they're not really making a profit off of them because most of the time a cat or
Mhm.
dog is just going to be like a mutt, basically. But I mean,
Yep.
that makes a lot of sense though with the people going to get these horses because it's a financial thing for them. But I mean, still,
100%.
it like blows my mind because I guess just most people never think about that, especially people in the city. They just don't think about that.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's one of those things I learned the hard way when I was 15, 16, and didn't want to believe it, but it's just gotten worse. And unfortunately, you hear from people that are desperate. There's people that reach out to us all the time. Oh my God, I can't afford my horse anymore. What should I do? And all of the rescues, especially the good ones, don't have that much space. There's just a limited amount of space and funds. So a lot of times it's all put you on a wait list or we can share your horse's photos out, but it's really hard and it's really heartbreaking to see some people. But like I said, we sometimes the best bet is if they can't afford it and the horse is especially older, it's like you might want to just consider giving them a good end now before they end up in some terrible situation because going to those auction houses, you see some absolutely terrible things.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, how many horses can you house at your facility?
Normally we can house, let's see, about 8 or 9 at max. Right now we have 8 because one of the horses we have is actually, I would actually call her a semi-feral horse. She's a 35-year-old horse. Unfortunately, she was badly abused. She has a lot of issues and we can't put her directly in a field with other horses or she becomes too territorial with those horses. So she actually is taking up an entire field right now. So otherwise we could probably put 2 where she is. But other than that, we have the 8 we have right now. It's a mix. I think we have 3 standardbreds, a thoroughbred. We have a kind of a Welsh cross pony. We have what's called a Criollo mare, which is a thoroughbred that's from South America. And then we have a quarter horse. And we probably are about to take actually a Oldenburg horse. That's a European breed that we just got an emergency intake request from. So that's going to be, once that horse comes in, we're going to be at capacity basically.
How many adoptions do you normally have per year?
It varies. The last few years, we've definitely been down because we've been getting a lot more older horses that can't be adopted or just aren't adopted. So over the course of the past 16 years, we've adopted, I think, somewhere in the range of 93 horses. But the last few years, it's been 2 or 3 a year max, depending on the situation. I believe last year we had 2 adoptions, if not 3. But then this year we haven't had any so far. Currently, we only have 2 horses for adoption right now. And they're both companion horses. And one of them is amazing. One of them is just the nicest, sweetest family horse. But again, it's a companion horse that you can't really ride her. So a lot of people don't want to deal with that right now. So our adoption rate right now is pretty much stagnant, other than we have 2 that are available for adoption, but chances of them getting adopted are pretty low, especially right now. People don't want to take on a horse that they can't ride.
Before we end the call, do you have any good rescue
Yeah.
stories?
We have so many good rescue stories. I'm trying to think. We've had really great situations where we had a horse years ago. His name was Silver Gem. He was a gray stallion. And basically, our founder, Nook, was out driving in a neighborhood and saw 2 little ponies chained on the side of the road. So she pulls over, she goes and inquires with the house with these ponies. Why are they chained on the side of the road? It turns out it's just this family that really doesn't know any better. And it turns out they have this gray stallion living in their backyard. And he is just skin and bones, living on a chain in their yard. And we were able to save the ponies. They were able to save this gray horse. And he was one of these horses where he clearly had been trained at some point in his past, but was just sitting in this person's yard on a chain, like neglected. It probably took about 6 months to get him to rehab so that he gained weight and things like that. We finally got him back in training. And he was one of these horses that was like beautiful under saddle, but really needed a very experienced rider. So we had him for a good year. And we didn't really have a lot of great inquiries because, again, there's not a lot of people out there looking for a horse that needs an advanced rider, and especially people that can actually ride that well. But we were able to find a 12-year-old girl contacted us, of all things. And we require all the adopters to be 18 and older. So her family ended up adopting the horse. But she adopted this horse. It was like love at first sight. They rode Everything went amazing, and she still has him to this day. So she's had him for, I think, 15 years. But he's a little old man now, and that's one of my favorites. Just like seeing like that horse would have probably died in this yard if we hadn't come across him, and just being able to like just have him be with somebody who's not only, we think when somebody's 12 years old, like they might lose interest in horses or they might send the horse back, and the fact that she's well into her 20s and she doesn't really ride him anymore, but she's dedicated to him, and just that he's had such a really good end of his life because he came from a really rough situation. So that's one of my favorites, but there's so many that are similar to that, whether they're companion horses or riding horses, that our adopters have really stepped up for and given like amazing homes. And it's really great to like still get the updates after 15 years from some of these people and see like what an amazing life their horses have had as a result of the rescue.
Yeah, that is amazing to hear that she started at 12 years old and she still has the horse that many years later. That is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Thank you so much for coming on the show to talk with me about this. And I hope it raises some awareness too, because I think, like a lot of people, and particularly in the city, you hear about things like this with all these horses going to auction and getting sold to slaughterhouses. But I don't think it really sticks with a lot of people. I don't think they tend to believe it. I think it's
Yeah,
just one of these things where they're like, oh, that's just a myth. It doesn't really happen. So I
yeah.
think it's good to speak with you to raise awareness for that too. So people know that kind of stuff does go on and these animals need to be rescued as well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. It's one of those things like until I went to my first auction, which I think I was a teenager when I first did it, it really is just eye opening and just makes you want to help as many as you can. And it's just hard because there's always more to help. But at least the ones that we do help, we really feel good that we've changed their lives.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine going to one of those auctions because it's got to
Oh
be
no.
so awful because you can't take all of them with you.
Yeah, and when I first went, I was a teenager. I couldn't take anybody, and it was just like, what do I do? And Anook, who was our founder, she went several years ago. She called me, and originally she was going to take 2 horses, and suddenly she's like, I think I'm going to take 4. And I went, do we have money for 4? Like, how are we going to get 4? But thank God we got 4 because those horses all really needed it, and they all ended up in much better situations as a result of that.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for the great work that you do with the horses.
Oh, thank you so much. And if people are interested, horserescueunited.org is our website. Obviously, people can go look at us, and we always need sponsors and things like that. So really appreciate anybody helping to support us.
Yeah, and I'll put that in the show notes too. So that way people will have the direct
Oh,
link.
that'd be great.
That's it for today's episode of Animal Posse. If you love what we're doing, please consider becoming a member. Your support directly helps us continue highlighting the people and stories that save lives across the country. Just a quick reminder, the views and opinions expressed by our guests are theirs alone and are provided for entertainment purposes. They don't necessarily reflect the official position of the show, and this information should never replace the advice of your own veterinarian. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bars in the night, claws in the fight, whiskers twitch and tails take flight. They're calling in stories to spin from the wild to the heart within. Broken wings and hopeful springs, we're the voices for these things. Animal Posse, hear the call. We stand together, big and small. Rescue tales, we've got it all. Animal Posse, saving them all. The vet's got tips, the rescuer's grit, the foster homes where love won't quit. From a pup in the rain to a bird in pain, every soul's worth the strain. Animal rise up, we never fail. This is the bond, the holy grail.